Welcome to the Tomorrow Zone Catalyst podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Rubin. Today's episode is part of a special series from Spark to Shift, how smart leaders are navigating AI adoption. Each episode, we talk with visionary leaders about bold moves, real stories, and the shift from AI talk to traction. Every guest is at a different point of their AI journey, and all of them are finding cool ways to turn potential into progress. So if you're ready to step away from the day-to-day and explore what's possible now and what's next, you're in the right place. So let's get to it. My guest today is someone who demonstrates true leadership through connection and curiosity. Skip Wehner brings over 30 years of experience in equipment finance, plus a decade in product manufacturing and distribution. He has built and sold multiple businesses, and now as NIFA's manager of education, he's all about helping others grow and lead. What I love about Skip, he always shows up with a people-first mindset, a collaborative spirit, and a real love for learning. So, Skip, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thanks for the intro, Deb. True to form, I feel like what you always say, I feel awesome after listening to that intro. So thank you for the acknowledgement and inviting me.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to have you on the show. We recently crossed paths at the NIFA convention in Minneapolis. So you were on my turf for a little while. And yes. I just remember it was kind of unforgettable. You shared a super inspiring story with me that involved how you were using AI for a really special moment. And I'm like, okay, we need to have you on the show. I've never heard anyone talk about using it that way, but that is so cool. So anyway, we were geeking out a little bit on using AI, and so let's do it again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm looking forward to where this conversation takes us.
Okay, cool. So what sparked your AI journey, Skip?
Honestly, it was probably the story I shared with you, which in Minneapolis, which I'll get to. I guess the quick background to getting to that is, I took some time off away from the industry, the equipment finance industry, starting right around COVID, March, April, 2020, and worked at a separate company that I owned with my wife, totally unrelated to equipment finance, but it was product manufacturing. And she and I took the time over COVID to figure out what we needed to do in order to get the company ready for sale. So we were going to take that downtime and do that. And so I just kind of left the industry, and I left my world was very small at the time. And, I would hear about AI on the news or maybe once in a while in LinkedIn feeds or something, but I really kind of took a break from all of that stuff. And once we sold the company in 23, and I kind of re-entered the marketplace, as manager of education for NIFA, I started paying attention a little bit more. And you would hear the Chat GPT or Gemini, and so I've always, anyone who's worked with me knows that I am readily willing to bleed technology, maybe too quickly, and bleed to death a little bit while I
early
figure
adopter.
it out. Early adopter. As a friend told me once, all that blood is worth something, Skip, and so hopefully it's worth something. But as I kind of re-entered, I downloaded Chat GPT, on my phone, and I think I used it early on as basically Google. I would ask it very simple, search type of questions, just getting familiar with it. And, during that time through 2020, as part of the story is my mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 9 years ago today. So she was in early onset Alzheimer's, dementia, struggling with that through COVID. Mm-hmm. And things, of course, they never get better with that disease and got even worse with COVID. But we got her into a care facility, we being my siblings and my father. And I was really fortunate. She was at a facility very close to where I live here in Colorado. And I'd get to see her almost, most days. And, as time went on, things just got harder and harder for her to grasp, whether it was, memories, people's names, that sort of thing. And one of the things my mom was just, I just totally remember about my mom is her just being super goofy, laugh at anything, just willing to have fun and just have fun and laugh and be present with the people that she cared about around her. And that got harder and harder to do with her as she started, her brain started slipping from us. And it hit me. I still know exactly where I was, in her room with my dad and her. And we were just, my dad and I were just struggling with conversation because it just kind of it was just the same thing over and over at some point in time with him and her. It just was hard to move anything. And there's something that just sparked some curiosity, as we say, with AI. And I was like, I wonder. And I pulled out my phone. Of course, my dad did to say, like he always does, but you guys are always on those things. And I opened up my Chat GPT app, and I don't remember. I had pulled up Chat GPT to see if I could find the original prompt, and I don't have it anymore. But it was something to the effect of, my mom has Alzheimer's. She's finding it, we're finding it harder and more difficult to communicate, but she used to love to laugh at silly jokes. And, can you give me some jokes and riddles that are simple that she would probably understand? And, that was kind of my first experience, with watching it, think and do something. And then there's this list of, some jokes and riddles came up and a couple maybe I've heard before, and they're, why did the chicken cross the road type of thing, something silly like that. But they were so much more creative than that. And I asked her, I said, would you like me to tell you some jokes? And she just lit up.
Precious.
Yeah. And I just went down there was 10 of them. And I just went down the list and, one after the other, some way more than others. She just lost her mind and was so happy and giggly. And it was just like old times, chokes me up, thinking about it. And I did that, for the next couple months. I would just keep adding to the prompt. Basically I'd say, send me, 10 more, every time I went up there, 10 more. And that was something that both I don't think she looked forward to it. My dad definitely did, because he was there, and I looked forward to it. And it was a way for us to connect. And it was just this, an ease of use in such a, I think, like an easy way to connect in such a difficult way, or in such a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a wonderful example, though, of innovating and leveraging technology to improve the human experience. I mean, what I love about your story is even like the spark that started it and changed everything was just saying, I wonder.
I was thinking about it and preparing to meet with you and talk, and it was like that word curiosity is, we say it maybe even too much, in this, but but it is, there's so much meaning to it. It's just the correct word. And so that was my, outside of, where's a good takeout place by me that sells hamburgers or something like, it's, rather than using as Google, it was this way to connect with my mom. And I shared that with my siblings. I have, 2 brothers and a sister, and they all are close by and would visit her too. And it was just kind of like this aha moment, I think, for all of us. I think they may, use something similar, periodically with her too. And that was kind of towards the end. She passed away in September last year, but that was something I used, almost daily, or, right towards the end there.
Wow. Well, what a great way to just create memories and connect with a part of who she is, even as you were going through that. And I'm sorry for your loss. It's such a tough thing to go through.
Yeah. But you're right. It was a way to connect that I had not been able to connect for a very long time.
Yeah. And I think, why I wanted you to share your story and thank you for sharing it. I know it's hard to think about, but, I know a lot of people who are going through stuff like that. We are right now, in my family. And, I had never even thought of using something like that to connect during difficult times. But I hope that this is inspiring for others who might be listening. So thank you for sharing that story. And so that was, it sounds like that was kind of where you got your start on your AI journey. But what did you learn from starting there, and where did you go from there?
I think without even realizing it, it showed me that that being curious is something you need in order to move forward, with, AI and so many things in life, but, AI should be no different. But it just showed me that like, this is so much more than a search bar. Had I thrown that into Google, it maybe would have given me a list of books or, I don't know, a blog post or something that maybe then I'd have to read. And it was just so simple. And it's something that I've used, in not just my work at NEFA, but also just, in my personal life. And I was thinking about it. I mean, I probably don't use, either, chat or Gemini on a daily basis, but probably pretty close, and sometimes something very simple. I'll give you an example of something I've recently started doing with NEFA where, I have a list of, websites that, ours, the ELFA, blog posts, monitor. I mean, just all sorts of, industry news and relevant topics that I have a list of. And I will feed those sites into ChatGPT periodically, with effectively a prompt of, hey, I'm looking for current relevant topics, educational opportunities. I have a lot of information from our members off of surveys, conversations, with presentations like you've done and that, but then there's always this piece of me like, but like I could never ask everybody in the industry, but that's kind of my closest way to being able to ask that question and see. And so I'll do that periodically as I'm, preparing for a conference or whatever. And just like, like what kind of stuff gets teased out. And I work with the education committee on using those as our own prompts for possibly putting together, educational topics.
That was really cool. So you're having it do a little bit of a trend scan for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just so amazing to watch it work. And I know it says it's thinking, and I know it's not a person. And I wrote down on my notes for the things I want to talk or just say on your podcast here. And it's like it's such a powerful thinking partner, but it's not doing the thinking for me necessarily, because I mean there's a lot that I'm plugging in that but it's absolutely a partner. And it just reminds me of some of like the mastermind groups I've been a part of in the past where you have multiple brains from different people and different like let's think about this and like what do we come up with.
That's an area that I have found to be very helpful, as well as just having it bring a different perspective to my thinking. I've heard it said that we can think of AI as the thought partner, but we stay the thought leader. And that's kind of how my collaborations typically is. I'm starting with the idea, and then I use these tools to enhance and expand and challenge even, and have it play different roles and, hey, poke holes in my idea. Where does this fail and how can I improve it? Yeah, it's been so fun to collaborate with it in that way. I'm curious, what shift in thinking or leadership helped you to gain traction in using AI?
I think, for me, it was, I certainly am surrounded by, just, some people come to mind, yourself, Josh Power, who I think you've had on here.
Oh, yeah. I love Josh.
John Sokol. I mean, just some of these, there's so many of them, and I certainly can't name them all right now. I feel like a sports athlete unable to thank all the people that got them there, but talking to them at these conferences, listening to, how they are, using, technology, some of the things I saw at, I think it was your virtual innovation lab last year. I think, so those things just, kind of propel the curiosity momentum in my head. And then I think there's just a lot of momentum that I have naturally just because I'm the tech support person for my entire family or anyone who's even close to my family, so they know that bleeding edge, early adopter is something I do. And I think it's a lot of my own momentum that I create just because I'm like, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And I continue to not be I'm just surprised every time, I'm like, how does it do that? It's unbelievable the amount of heavy lifting that you would have to do that it frees you up to do, something more and be that thought leader.
Yeah, I love the way that it can take a huge volume of information and distill it down so quickly, which, for me would take forever. The thing that I'm hearing in your process and the kind of the shift in thinking, it's almost like a loop. It's a curiosity. I wonder if and then experimenting, but then sharing what you've learned with others and then learning from what they have learned from their experiments. So there's kind of this, curiosity as an individual, but then sharing and learning in community. That's been a part of the momentum for you.
Yeah, no, quite. I think by using it, it's just listening to you. It reminds me. It's like I feel like that momentum actually of whatever it is I'm doing continues to keep moving forward. It's not like, I'm gonna have to stop and research. It's not this herky jerkiness.
Mm-hmm.
There can be this because it is so instantaneous. I had just this piece of the conversation remind me. I had a person I was trying to help who was wanted to move to an apartment closer to a campus that they were going, to for school. And it was like, it's going to probably take, 2 months to find the right, because there's all these requirements. And I was like, curiosity. I was like, type in 1 bedroom apartment, 1 bath, needs washer and dryer, hookup, can't be more than $1,200 a month. It had to be on the first floor, I think, and had to be within a 10-mile radius of this campus. And I plugged in that address and available starting in whatever month it was. I'm like, and that's the longest I've ever seen ChatGPT think. But it was. I sent a list to this person of places that were available that met all those criteria.
Wow.
Within, 5 minutes after hopping off the phone with them from this thing that was like going to take them 2 months to, they moved within literally, I think 2 weeks.
Wow.
From that phone call.
Wow. Yeah. You really compressed time there.
But I mean, I don't know how else I would have done that in the old world.
Well, yeah. And even if you're using like a site for finding, you still have to page through all the results and everything, and so it's just a different way of thinking about how we find information or solve problems. But every time it's funny, every single time it starts with, I wonder.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so it definitely is a tool for the curious mind. What have you learned that you think others need to hear, especially when it comes to maybe resistance or unexpected wins with AI?
Well, I mean, I guess first off, you have to accept that you're going to try. And by try, maybe download the ChatGPT, whatever you want to use. I think probably for me, it was easiest to start with things that are personal, and like, things that would impact me. And I didn't necessarily, play the business card yet, but, what are the things that would impact, me? I mean, I did look at, some of the historical stuff, and I had stuff on there like, what are some interesting conversation, questions I could ask my 6-year-old granddaughter, because I always get tired of because we pick her up from school a couple times a week. And, I just always got tired of how was your day? Fine. Okay. There's the end of that conversation. And
what was one of the questions that you learned from AI that really helped you to have a better conversation with your 6-year-old granddaughter?
I pulled it up here. So in case there was, there's these, I haven't used them all, but it grouped them into, imagination, creativity, ones that were silly, one that are curious and thoughtful, everyday fun, just for giggles. Like this one, just for giggles, I haven't used it yet, but I like, if a cow wore pants, would it wear them on all four legs or just the back two? I mean, come on.
I love that.
You think that, you don't know her, Kaylin, at all, but that she'll be like, they're Poppy. She calls me Poppy. She's like, Poppy. And she'd be like, either that's silly or that's, I don't, but it would spark a conversations. The other, like another one,
is there one that you've tried that worked really well?
What would your house look like if it were made out of candy? She wanted it. I know.
I love that so much.
Yeah, she said she wanted to know if ice cream counted, because ice cream could be candy. So, and I'm a big ice cream supporter. So anyway, we talked about that, and the whole thing, started. I do hate that question when you get in the car with like kids. I remember picking up our daughter. How was your day? Fine.
Yeah.
And I tried to start asking, what's the most interesting thing that someone said to you today? And I've tried those before, but so I have this list for when we pick her up. But I started it because she was over here a couple of weeks ago, and she was just and she just was all spiraled up and didn't want to sit. And it was I want to sit and ask you some questions. Let's make a game out of it, because she loves games.
Uh-huh.
And so I pulled those up, and that's what we sat and did for 20 minutes, and she loves, I have a whole list of knock jokes that she likes too.
Oh,
that are
fun.
Appropriate for 6 years old. So
You're the most fun grandpa ever. Powered by AI and curiosity.
And so I shared them with my wife, and we have, just a list of, questions that you can ask a 6-year-old that are certainly going to be beyond, fine, but that impacts my personal life and creates a better connection with, my granddaughter and myself. And so I would encourage just to maybe start with some personal things. And then it started quickly leaking into how things impact me from a business perspective, as well. But it's like, I sometimes will challenge myself now to I'm just going to write a big, how many things can I put into this prompt to isolate what it is I'm trying to do? And I just love watching it work, because I don't even know how I would do that on my own.
So are you actually typing it in now, or are you starting to talk to it?
I've talked to it a couple of times, but I usually type. I have an iPad with a keyboard and the app on there, and I usually do the typing. But I have spoken to it a couple of times, and I should probably practice that more, because that's a good reminder. I'm so used to typing, but I've typed in some pretty heavy duty, paragraphs, and then I watch it work.
Yeah, it's fun.
See if it listens.
When you talk to it, you don't even have to have your thoughts completely sorted. It figures it out. And so I've gotten into the habit lately, and I've been doing this all summer, where I'll just I'll talk to it. Here's what I'm trying to do, and here's why, and here's the context, and this is what this is what I expect, and and then I let it work on it, and that's been fun to see that you don't even have to have the perfect prompt to get a good result. Now I actually ask it to create the prompts. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. How should I prompt you?
Right. I like that. I have had a few, follow-up prompts. I'm like, why did you, I didn't even ask for that. Or I've already asked for that. And why did you give that to me again? Mm-hmm. I had an interesting question for you, because when I was listening to you, I one of the things I've been practicing as I type in now is, for a long time, I treated it like a person, and there was lots of please and thank yous.
Oh yeah,
in it, and I've been very purposefully just trying to be very direct. Need this, and trying to remind my own brain that this is not a person I'm working with. That this is a tool. I wouldn't say please and thank you to my hammer, for putting a nail in the board. So I've been trying to do that myself.
I jokingly started that way, I want to be nice to our, future overlords, and, in case it develops memory. I actually did develop memory along the way, but in my interactions, I do have to depart from Minnesota nice, and I'm not saying please and thank you. I'm very direct, and I also challenge it, and I'll say, "Hey, I told you to do this. Why did you do that? I told you not to do this. Why did you do it anyway?" So it's constantly apologizing. And,
Yeah, you're right. It does. You do have to watch it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that. And by that, and you do treat it like a person. Like that's not what I asked. And
well, I treat it. It's not a person. I don't want to anthropomorphize it, but it's like a human simulator, and so it's kind of like a person. It simulates human capability, but I treat it like a highly capable person that I don't completely trust.
Right.
But still can add value. And so I have to evaluate everything that comes out of it, because with the latest model, I've noticed even more hallucinations than before. And it's very confident in its BS, and so you have to be careful. But I think it's just an ongoing learning journey. We're going to be continually learning how to better collaborate with these things, because it's changing and learning constantly as well. Such an interesting time. So I'm curious, Skip, how are you thinking about what's next for AI for you, your team, or even the equipment finance industry, given your role as head of education at MIFA? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, that's like such a huge question, and I saw that on kind of, your email to me, like, hey, just kind of be thinking of these things. Like, oof, that's a big one.
That's totally tomorrow's zone.
No, I totally appreciate it. I'm just like, I was so excited when you asked me to be a part of this. I think, from the feedback I get from our members, we've moved the needle on them being curious and starting to maybe, utilize, AI a bit more, some way more than others. But I think, we at least as a membership group, that I'm familiar with, which I mean could probably be more widely in the rest of the industry too, is, still trying to figure out like, and what does that mean from even like a strategy standpoint? Like, I mean, it could easily be helpful, but also a distraction and not necessarily moving, you forward. And so, I mean, it's one of the things that, we've been talking about with our education committee and, our board. And it was like, how do we as an association, add some value there, as it pertains to AI, just like anything else, and helping our membership walk away with real tools, real takeaways, the ability to strategize, to put together a plan around that. And so that's something that we continue to work on. But that's one of the reasons I put that sheet together too, is like tease out for me what others might be doing, or it's really almost like can do anything type of tool, that you have to be. It's a little bit like what we do in this industry. I mean, you sell money, and who doesn't need money? I mean, everybody needs money, and so how are you going to differentiate yourself, and what's your plan to deploy it and be different and stand out? And that's a little bit maybe like, the use of AI, like it can do a lot. How are you going to use it and move that forward? So I think, we're definitely, more and more chat like this is helping me, and certainly helping our industry to, figure out what that looks like. And every time, we have a conference, I feel like there's more forward momentum, in this. But I also remember when this industry thought of, pad of paper and pencil was technology, and so we've been slow to adopt sometimes. So I'm excited to see us move this forward. So I don't know if that really answers the question or not, but it's a really big ask. I know at the association, we and my team are having our own discussions. We spent this year implementing a new system, that manages our membership database. And now that that's all implemented, we're going to move forward with like, we need to start to put together a strategy of technology, AI, and how we're going to utilize that for ourselves and, for the benefit of our members. So that conversation has started. I don't know what that fully looks like yet, but it's a purposeful conversation we're having.
Well, and I think that you just nailed the word purpose, in all of these things. When we're thinking about a tool that can do anything, We have to get so clear on what do we need it to do? What do we want it to do? And more importantly, why? What's the purpose? Because that's where we're going to find the value. You know, it can solve any problem. So what are the problems that are valuable for us to solve? And then we can figure out how might AI play a role in that.
Yeah, I like the way that sounds.
Yeah. I can't believe how fast our time went. So I've prepared an option. I've prepared a little lightning round. And so just 3 simple questions, short responses. You ready?
Okay.
I'm
fill
really
in the nervous.
blank. AI is only as powerful as blank.
Your curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
Did I nail it?
Yeah. Nailed it. All right. What's one word that describes your AI journey?
Probably grateful.
Oh, I love that. Okay, say more.
I think about how it helps me do so many things I deem important in my life, relationships, my mom, granddaughter, my own work-life balance. I mean, there's a lot of gratefulness for some of the, connections and ideas that I've, gotten from the non-human chat GPT. But I am grateful for what I get from it, for the most part.
I love that, especially as we're nearing Thanksgiving. So what do you wish someone had told you at the beginning?
I don't know that if it would be that someone told me, but I wish I actually would have seen. So it would have been an example of like, look at how you can tease information out of this thing, that it isn't, because I heard all the time, it's not a Google search, but at least for me, until I see that prompt, and this and this and this, I mean, that's when it really started to make sense. Like, oh, there's something here that I can use, and I can just use it more every time. I think it would just be someone have given me an example, and I could have seen what it produced. That my journey would have started sooner.
Awesome. I love that. And I think there's some fuel right there for things you can do for your members at NIFA too. How can you bring some examples that can spark their imagination and journeys?
Indeed.
Yeah. So Skip, I just want to thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your insights and your story. Loved it.
Yeah. No, thank you for inviting me, Deb. I'm honored to be a part of it, and I love talking about it.
Awesome. To our listeners, I hope you took away some awesome wisdom nuggets from that conversation. I know I did, especially the ways that you can use AI to help you enhance human connection. So powerful. As always, we love it if you like and subscribe, share the episode with a friend. I want to thank you for tuning in. And until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.